will absolutely take your fucking face off. So 100%, if you're into just combat sports in general, definitely watch at least those fights. Those are definitely worth your time.
All right. So this Saturday night, we have UFC Fight Night Holm versus Bueno Silva, a Fight Night card going down at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, headlined by two of the women's bantamweight division's stars, in being Holly Holm and the rising Mayra Bueno Silva. Man, the Apex must be cool. You think it seems like such an intimate venue. Quite a few big names.
The Apex seems fucking horrible.
Oh, you think so?
The
Why?
Apex dude, because here's my thing, right? I feel like when you're doing the come up in the MMA world, right? I feel like it'd be cool to do it once to say that you've done it, because it's not something I think that happens in almost any other promotion. But all these other promotions have little ass spaces, little ass rings. It's like the Apex is almost like the nice version of an amateur, like an amateur card. And I feel like these guys, once they get to that position, once they get to the UFC, I feel like they deserve the crowd. They deserve the stadium. They deserve that platform, that energy, that next step. Because to me, that's a big part of that career, right? Like, we always talk about the nerves, and if the moment got to the guy, this, that, and the other. Like, it makes a difference, man, to have, 100 people looking at you versus like 15,000 people looking at you.
Sure.
So I think it takes something away from the shine of what the UFC is supposed to be and kind of the stage that the UFC is supposed to represent. So I'm not a huge fan of the Apex. I understood the necessity for it. I understand even the necessity now, because I'm sure the UFC saves a dick ton of money on venues and stuff like that when they do this stuff.
Money.
But it's not my favorite at all.
Yeah, I wish Apex cards would cease to exist, but unfortunately money is everything, and that's why we have them. But I'm sure as a fan it's a cool experience, which maybe is what Mike meant, but for the fighters,
well, sure.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, before we talk about, I believe, the 5 or 6 fights that we are planning on talking about, any other fights or fighters that you guys just want to quickly mention and spotlight for our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, so the UFC has not ordered the bouts on this card yet on their website, nor has anyone really. The only place we can find that kind of listed in a bout order or what they think is a main card is ESPN. So we are going to work off that, and we're going to do the main card plus Jack's fight. So one that I will highlight quickly that is not amongst those is the debut of Azat Maksum, who is fighting Tyson Nam. The dude's undefeated. He's 16-0. I don't know him super well, but he's supposed to be very dangerous with his hands, well-rounded fighter. So he is definitely someone to keep an eye on. If he can debut by beating Tyson Nam, he's pretty much in the flyweight mix immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That fight looks like it's at bantamweight, it seems.
Really?
That's what it says on SureDog. I don't know. Now let's see here. No, it says flyweight in the UFC.
Okay, I was going to say that'd be
This
weird.
card is all over. This information on this card is garbage. Fucking garbage.
And then I was also just going to mention quick, I forget exactly how he pronounces his name, but Melquizael Costa fighting Austin Lingo. He is a dude. He debuted up at lightweight. Costa, I'm referring to, up at lightweight, fighting Thiago Moises on somewhat short notice, I believe, and lost to Thiago Moises, as a lot of dudes do. But he was super intriguing in that fight. He looked like he could be a dangerous striker. He is now back down to his proper weight class, fighting Austin Lingo, and I think he's a dude to keep an eye on as well.
All right.
Yep.
Let us get into this. Let us begin with, as of right now, it looks like it might be on the undercard, though all three of us suspect that this could get easily moved way up into the main card in the welterweight division. Jack Della Maddalena going up against Bassil Hafez. Mark, why don't you give us your take and your pick?
Okay, so Jack is a minus 600 favorite. Hafez is plus 450. Our boy Jack gets a fight after all. We have successfully now gone from Sean Brady to Josiah Harrell to Bassil Hafez. But hey, he said he came to Vegas for a fight and he wanted one and he's going to get one here, so good for him. They are the same height. I'm not sure about the reach because I can't even find one for Hafez. But they may be similar sized dudes. But the long story short here is that we are all just thankful for Hafez because he is allowing us to see JDM put on his latest show. So I think that's what we'll get. The resume from Hafez is nothing so encouraging. I don't think he will offer so much for Jack to worry about. And I think he'll get walked down and put out like everyone else has thus far. Give me Jack Della Maddalena, round 1, knockout.
Sorry, bad time for a long yawn. Omar, go.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like Jack Della Maddalena wants to get to work. I don't think he wants to waste the camp. I don't think he wants to waste the cut. And I think he's kind of at a point now where I'm sure he probably wants the money. So
Yeah.
I don't wholly blame him. I just wish that we could do better for Jack Della Maddalena. I know it's short notice and all this stuff, but this just doesn't seem to be it. And like Mark was saying, you know, this Bassil kid, I mean, would we have even seen him in the UFC had it not been for these specific circumstances? Because his resume doesn't seem like anything the UFC would even be remotely interested in, for being wholly honest.
Yeah.
But here we are, and hopefully things from 290 have not impacted the natural order of things, and the time continuum is still relatively intact, and fucking Jack Della Maddalena doesn't get starched by a guy that he shouldn't be getting starched by. So let's go with Jack Della Maddalena by round 1 submission.
Let's go Jack Della Maddalena by round 1 knockout. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for playing. Worth noting a little bit, this gentleman, Bassil, if I hope I'm saying his name right, has never been finished, never been knocked out or submitted. That being said, this is his UFC debut. Easily, far and away, probably the toughest guy he's ever fought, talent-wise. So, I gotta believe that JDM finds a way to give this man his first career loss by knockout or submission. I'll say knockout round 1. Okay, let's move on now. Let's see. Let's go Terrance McKinney versus Nazim Sadykhov. Sorry if I'm butchering that one. McKinney, T-Rex, the 28-year-old out of Spokane, Washington, 13-5 as a pro, 5 knockouts, 8 submissions. That's right. None of his 13 wins has gone the distance. He's trying to get back in the win column after dropping a fight to Ismail Bonfim back in January of this year. Most devastating loss of his career, getting caught with that nasty flying knee against the cage, face planting him into the UFC canvas. But T-Rex is a talented guy, and looking for him to bounce back against Nazim Sadykhov, the 29-year-old out of Azerbaijan, 8-1 as a pro, 6 knockouts, has never been knocked out himself. After dropping his first fight, he has won 8 in a row. Won his fight on Contender Series and won his UFC debut against Evan Elder back in February of this year. Enough talking from me. Omar, give us your take and your pick.
It's an interesting fight because both of these guys, I think, are really going to look for opportunities standing up. They're going to be looking for the knockout. I think the real difference between the two of them is that Sadykhov seems to be more of the brawler, right? More of the bruiser, if you will. That dude is going in with hooks, and he is trying to light your shit up. Terrance McKinney has a little bit more of a measured approach. He likes to keep his distance. He likes to make his attacks long. He likes to put weight behind his attacks for sure, but he's not lunging in and he's not winging shots in order to get those finishes. I think the thing that makes Sadykhov interesting when it comes to the way that he strikes is the way that he opens up areas for his hooks to land. I just don't think McKinney's at that level where he's going to allow that to happen or he's going to fall into those traps. I think McKinney is going to be a little bit more well-rounded, so if we do end up seeing different looks in this fight, I would assume that he should still kind of have the upper hand here. I think the Bonfim thing, I think he got caught, man. You know what I mean? I don't know how much I should really take away from that fight. I thought it was a good fight up until he got smashed. But I'm going to take care of Terrance McKinney here. I think the kid is still very good prospect. I think he's still very talented. I can't imagine he's not getting better having spent more time in the gym. So I'm going to go with Terrance McKinney here. I think he keeps his streak of murder and mayhem alive, and I will go by second round TKO.
All right, so McKinney is a plus 115 underdog here. Nazim Sadykhov is the slight favorite at minus 140. There's a 4.5-inch reach for Terrance McKinney, reach advantage, though the heights are the same. And, yeah, I'm also going to have faith in Terrance McKinney here at least one more time. There's too much talent in this guy. It's always a risk to pick him because he's capable of quickly crashing and burning. But if Evan Elder can hang with Nazim Sadykhov, and let's be honest, he was beating Sadykhov most of that fight until the cut happened in the third round and it kind of swung. I got to think Terrance McKinney can do it. The reach, the athleticism, the finishing ability, the well-rounded skill set of McKinney, it's a lot in his corner. And I know he can be caught and I know he can make mistakes, but I'm going to side with him in here with him here. And Sadykhov is in there to scrap. He comes to go. So I think that helps McKinney, and I think McKinney can hurt him. So I will say Terrance McKinney, round 2, knockout.
Wow, we're all taking McKinney here. I was a little surprised, actually, to hear that Sadykhov is a betting favorite here, but I would put my money, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would go with McKinney. I agree. I think he's a super talented guy at lightweight. He has a lot of firepower in those hands. And I want to say that Sadykhov is going to be durable enough to withstand the onslaught of McKinney, but I've been reminded that McKinney has not won a fight with the judges' help. So I will say that McKinney gets the knockout in the late first round against Sadykhov, surprising the Azerbaijani. Let us move on. All right. Also in the lightweight division, Ottman Azaitar taking on Francisco Prado. Azaitar, the Bulldozer, is his nickname. Out of Cologne, Germany, 33 years old, 13-1 as a pro. Only one of those wins, has gone the distance. 10 have come by way of knockout. He's looking to get back in the win column after his first career loss at the hands of Matt the Steamroller Frevola when he knocked him out in the first round with a devastating punch. Let's go over to Francisco Prado, the 21-year-old out of Santa Fe, Argentina. Also quite a prospect, 11-1 coming into his second UFC bout. 5 wins by knockout, 6 by submission. That's right, none of them have gone the distance. He has never been finished, but he did suffer his first loss in his UFC debut at the hands of Jamie Mullarkey back in February of this year. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick, Azaitar versus Prado.
So this one is nearly a pick'em. You're actually taking some juice on either one of them, no matter who you bet. Francisco Prado is minus 115. Ottman Azaitar is minus 105. There is a 3-inch height and 5-inch reach advantage for Francisco Prado in this fight, which is so damn much. And Ottman Azaitar had some hype until Matt Frevola ended it. It's possible that he can just kind of bully Prado here and land something big and grab a little bit of his hype back. But, man, Prado is so much bigger, and he's going to get to strike here. And the striking is why he's here. It's why he's in the UFC. You saw shades of it in his debut against Jamie Mullarkey. Mullarkey was able to turn to the wrestling and beat Prado in that way. But Azaitar is not really that guy. He is a headhunter. So unless he shows some wrinkles, and maybe he will, but I suspect that these guys are both going to be looking for the knockout, and that's probably why it seems like it's going to be on the main card here. So either guy could certainly catch the other, but give me the reach and the size and the youth of Francisco Prado. I will take him to win via knockout in round 1.
Omar.
I don't hate it, but we are going to differ. I think that Ottman is the type of guy that has to kind of make some adjustments when it comes to the height. He's another one that I think tends to fight guys that might be bigger, both in frame and even sometimes in stature as well. But he's got a beautiful overhand right that doesn't come out very wide. It's actually pretty tight, goes right over the guard, and that fucking punch works wonders against dudes that are taller than you. And I think he might very well find that chin. I'm going to go with Azaitar by KO round 1.
Whew. Yo, this fight is not going to do the scorecards.
Flipped round 1 knockout sounds like exactly the proper picks for this fight.
This is a fight where all 3 judges should just get up and go take a bathroom break because they will not be needed. That being said, fireworks, yep, it's a pick'em. I'm going to go with the Argentinian Francisco Prado with the thunder in his hands. I will say round 2 knockout for Prado. Okay, cue this back up here. Who are we going with next? Oh, Omar, break out your
Get excited.
Your fight kit. Get that fight kit out.
Let's go. Let's go.
What weight is this fight happening at? Remind me. Is this featherweight?
145.
What weight is this? Come on, baby.
At Dumont weight.
This is Dumont's division, baby. Let's go.
The uncrowned queen.
Amen.
The featherweight queen, Norma Dumont, the immortal, taking on Chelsea Chandler. Norma Dumont really needing no introduction on this podcast. The 32-year-old out of Minas Gerais, Brazil. 9-2 as a pro. 2 subs, 7 decisions. Never been subbed herself. She is coming off of a back-to-back wins over Danielle Wolf and Carol Hossa back in April. She will be standing across from Chelsea Chandler, the 29-year-old out of Stockton, California. Stockton, motherfucker. 5-1 as a pro. Thank you. After losing her first pro bout, she has now gone 5 straight into the UFC, won her UFC debut against Soliarenko back in October of last year. Mark, go first. Take and pick.
So if you don't know why we kind of talk about Norma Dumont the way we do on this show and you're thrown off by that intro, it's because for quite some time she has been the only woman in the entire featherweight division, other than obviously Amanda. And these girls who are bantamweights go up to challenge her in the Norma Dumont division, and she turns them away. So we enjoy us some Norma Dumont.
Yes, sir.
Granted, here she is fighting a girl who actually is a featherweight, or who has been plenty of times. She has a few bantamweight fights on the record as well, but she is the size of an actual featherweight here, not just someone trying to move up. So that's a little bit of a wrinkle compared to who Dumont's been fighting lately. Dumont is favored. She is minus 145, so not huge. Chelsea Chandler is plus 120 as the underdog. There is 1 inch of height and 1 inch of reach on the Chandler side in this fight. And I do wish we would have gotten to see Chelsea fight a second time before fighting Norma Dumont, because I was intrigued by what I saw from her in her debut. The only problem is that said debut was against Julia Stoliarenko, and now she is fighting Norma Dumont. So it's a very big step, and I don't feel like I have the necessary information to make a call on how good I think Chelsea Chandler might be. So it's almost like it's just a guess. So in that type of scenario with pretty close betting odds and needing to make a pick, I feel like I just got to go with the sure thing here, and that's Norma's ability to edge girls out and win a decision. So I will roll with Norma Dumont to win by decision here. But Chelsea Chandler being good and us realizing it on Saturday would not shock me, because I do think there were some encouraging signs in her debut. But we'll go Dumont.
I just got to say real quick, Chelsea Chandler, her name is a little too close to Chelsea Handler. So for that reason alone.
Dude, I was just thinking that as I was saying it out loud.
Yeah, for that reason alone, I disqualify her from this contest.
Yeah. I fucking hate Chelsea Handler.
Yeah, dude, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. I could say more mean things, but I won't.
Yeah.
I'll go first, rather second. Guys, this is called And New MMA Show, but sometimes it's also called the Norma Dumont MMA Show, especially when she's fighting. If she only knew the amount of love we give her. I do like Norma Dumont quite a bit. I've been a fan for a while of her fighting style. And I will roll. I like your point that Chelsea Chandler, a little bit of an unknown. There's a little bit more of a question mark hanging over her head with such a small pro record coming into this weekend. Not that Norma Dumont has much more, but we've seen more of her. She's been in the UFC for quite a bit longer. So I will roll with Norma. I will say Norma by UD. Omar, tell us why you're picking Norma.
By spinning.
Well, Norma Dumont is just the queen of the featherweight division. And until proven otherwise, Norma Dumont will continue to win. I will say, Norma Dumont's real kryptonite tends to be girls that are bigger than her. So, like, her fight against Macy Chasson at 145 is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is a gigantic woman at 145. Yep. And who's the other girl? Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson was the other girl. Megan Anderson's like 6'3" or something crazy. Like, Megan Anderson is gigantic.
She's tall.
She's got legs for days, bro. She can kick you from one side of the octagon to the other. Those two women she had trouble with, and understandably so, just based on the physical issues. But I don't think Chelsea Handler necessarily presents anything like that, at least that we know of. So I'm going to roll with Norma Dumont here, baby, by unanimous decision.
Dude, I'm 6'1", and anytime I ever meet a woman who's like 6 feet or like eye to eye with me, like it tricks my brain, and I'm like, you're the biggest human I've ever met.
I know what you mean, dude. I know what you mean.
It is weird. I'm like, you're Avatar. You want to be
like, why are you a giant? Like,
yeah. Okay. How many more?
Did you guys ever watch
2 more.
Deuce Bigelow back in the day?
Yes, of course. Don't say it.
Me and my wife still do it. We still do it.
All right,
we ever see somebody tall like that going up? That's a huge bitch.
That's a huge bitch.
Still holds up.
It does.
Such a great line.
Rob Schneider. Fucking classic shit from Rob Schneider, man. Okay. Co-main event, Albert Duraev taking on Yong Park. Duraev, Machete, great nickname. 34 years old, out of Volga. How do you say it? Volgograd, Russia. Thank you. 16-4 as a pro, 3 knockouts, 9 submission victories on his record, coming off of a split decision victory over Chidi Bang Bang Enjo Kawani back in March of this year. He will be standing across from the Iron Turtle, Junyoung Park, the 32-year-old out of Seoul, South Korea. His record stands at 16-5 coming into this weekend with 5 knockouts. Add 5 submissions to that. He has been finished 3 times himself, and he is riding a 3-fight UFC win streak coming into this weekend. Most recently defeating Dennis Tululin by submission in the first round back in February. Omar, go first for this one.
Excuse me. I think this matchup is very, very interesting, to be honest. I think that, we know Duraev's most likely path to victory here as far as what he's going to want to work. His ground game, his wrestling, trying to get him smothered as much as humanly possible on Jun Young Park. But I think Jun Young Park has actually really good takedown defense. I should have actually pulled up the actual stats, which the UFC also only does it for UFC, but that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't matter. Jun Young Park, though, I think has really good takedown defense. I think his hands are actually really solid. And I think that if he's able to stuff a few of Duraev's takedowns, I think Duraev will end up getting gas a little bit faster than Park. And I think Park will see an opening to light up Duraev as a result. So I'm going to take Jun Young Park here. I'm going to take him by second round KO.
Wow, Marco.
All right, so Park is the favorite. He is minus 160.
Hey.
Duraev is plus 130 as the underdog, so pretty close. Duraev is 1 inch taller. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage, so some size on his side. This one is real tough for me. I'm basically flipping a coin on this fight, and it's tough for me for a couple reasons. One is that I've had a hard time figuring out just how good I think Albert Duraev is. After his debut, I thought, all right, he's solid, but nothing too special. Then I thought Joaquin Buckley could finish him, and he did. So I was like, all right, yeah, I knew it. And then he went out and beat a dangerous guy in Chidi Njokuani. So now I'm like, I don't know what I make of this guy. Granted, I didn't think Chidi fought his best fight, but even so, that's a pretty good win. And then on the other side, you have Park, who's 6-2 in the UFC at this point. It's a nice little record. He's very well-rounded. He's beaten a lot of guys. But at the same time, he hasn't really beaten a high-quality wrestler, which Duraev is. So I kind of land in this place where I'm like, I don't know. I don't have a great feel of how I think this one plays out. My mind wants to say Park because I feel like I've seen him show that he can do more things, but I just have this feeling it's going to be another of these Duraev fights where, I feel like Park could have won it, but he just doesn't because Duraev edges it from some opportunistic control moments that he manages to grab. So maybe I'll even say split decision. So, yeah, I'll say Albert Duraev split decision.
They both have splits in their recent resumes. Park had a split with Eric Anders last May, so over a year ago. But it was his first of 3 recent victories. I agree. I think this is a very close fight. Great matchmaking at this point in these guys' careers. Loved your point about the big question mark about that Park has not yet gone against a strong wrestler. And here we go. Ask and thou shalt receive. We have a strong Russian wrestler going against Park. I'm going to give the edge to Park, though, because of his recent resume. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He's finished his last 2 opponents. He just choked out Dennis Delulin. Before that, he choked out ugly man Joseph Holmes. I'm going to say that he wins this fight by a unanimous decision. I think he defends the takedown. I see him stuffing enough takedowns and hurting Duraev on the feet and scoring enough to walk away with the UD. All right, let us go to the main event of the evening this Saturday night: Holm versus Bueno Silva. Holly Holm, the 41-year-old out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, USA. 15-6 as a pro, with 8 knockouts on her resume. Most recently, scoring a UD victory over Yana Santos back in March. Standing across from Mayra Bueno Silva. Her nickname is Chitara. I wonder if that's a reference to Thundercats with Chitara. Was that the character's name in Thundercats?
That's what I always think of when I hear it.
Chitara. 31 years old, out of Brazil, 10-2 with 1 draw, 7 submission victories on her record. She is riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this Saturday night, most recently adding a sub to her record, knee-barring Lena Landsberg in the second round back in February of this year. Omar, start us off this time. Give us the analysis and ultimately your pick for this main event bantamweight clash.
Another really interesting matchup here. You have somebody in Mayra Bueno Silva that loves to take things down to the ground and loves to use her jiu-jitsu to get things done. And then you have somebody in Holly Holm who is very much about making sure that she fights her fight, making sure that she doesn't put herself in positions to potentially lose a fight, right? In other words, she's not going to give Mayra Bueno Silva the opportunities that maybe a lot of other fighters would to get a submission. I think we've seen Holly Holm kind of try to get or keep the fight where she wants to against women who may not have the accolades to actually take her down, and I don't think Bueno Silva is at that point. I think Holly Holm will be able to keep this on the feet. I think she'll be able to strike at distance with Bueno Silva, and I don't think that Bueno Silva is going to be able to get anything off. I think Holly Holm eats, and I think it'll be 3 rounds or 5? 5?
Yep.
5, yeah, main event.
I don't even think it goes 5, to be honest, man. I think she melts her, and it's probably going to be a TKO by round 4.
Wow. Okay. Mark?
Mike's face was just frozen. So funny for me. Okay, Holly is favored. She is minus 175. Mayra Bueno Silva is a plus 145 underdog. 2 inches of height and 2.5 inches of reach favoring Holly Holm here. I like Bueno Silva, man. She's already got 4 submissions in the UFC. It's always fun to have a girl in the women's divisions who can end things with sudden submissions. I do think the move to 135 was a good one for her. I think she looks much better at this weight class. But all that being said, I'm just not convinced that she's going to be able to grab a hold of Holly Holm for long enough to tap her. Holly, as much as she's thought of as a striker, she has really evolved over the years with her wrestling and her grappling to the point that I do expect her to be okay here. If she ever did end up in a situation where Silva had her back or Silva ended up in mount or anything like that, then yeah, Holm's going to be in trouble. That's a different story. But I think she can prevent it from ever getting to that point. And while Silva is also very down to scrap it out on the feet, I just don't think she's at a technical level to hang with or beat Holly Holm. Granted, I was very confident of that same exact point when we were talking about Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis, and we know how that went. But I think Holly can mostly stay away from the grappling and fight a typical Holly Holm fight, maybe a little less clinching than she normally employs just to kind of try to keep them separate a bit more. But a lot of front kicks, long-range weapons, jabs, and then some bigger shots mixed in as she's able to open Silva up a bit. And I also think the cardio favors Holly too here as this fight goes on. So I will roll with Holly Holm by UD.
So, perusing Holly Holm's resume, other than her most recent loss against Ketlen Vieira, she really has only lost to a selection of girls who you would say are among the best. She lost to Amanda. She lost to Cyborg. She lost to Jermaine Durandamy. She lost to Valentina. And, of course, she lost the belt to Misha in one of Misha's greatest, guttiest performances ever. I would not yet put Ketlen Vieira in that same sort of breath as some of those other girls. That being said, Holly Holm, for the most part...
You could also argue that she beat Ketlen Vieira.
It was a split. That's right.
Yeah.
And I agree, and that I think Holly does a great job of being elusive. She sticks and moves. She has great movement. That being said, I always bring up this point. I think at 41 years old, I think her age is going to start to show. And I see the decade younger Bueno Silva getting this fight to the ground eventually. I think she's only going to need one or a few takedowns. As much as Holly is a vet, I just see the younger Bueno Silva getting it done in this contest. I'm going to say she hands Holly her first loss by a finish in a few years since her loss to Amanda back in 2019. I'll say Bueno Silva by submission in the middle of the fight. I'll say third round for MBS.